talk about it. Won't let it sit on your mind. When you talk about it, know that it will be alright. Let's talk about it,
Hi everyone, welcome to episode 6 of season 2 of the Mindful Podcast. Today we're going to be discussing toxic relationships, which I feel like relationships are always a topic that multiple people can relate to, whether it be romantic or friendship. So actually when we do have this conversation, I want us to actually challenge ourselves to think about both. Because I feel like a lot of the feelings that you do have in a toxic romantic relationship are similar to friendships. So let's think about like all of our experiences when it comes to that. And before we dive in and engage in this conversation, I just want to do a temperature check and see how my guests are feeling. And before you answer how you're feeling, just let the listeners and the viewers know who you are.
Sure.
Do you want to go first?
I can go first. My name is Marlyn Jean, if you want to know everything. I'm just kidding. One of my main things right now, I run like a kind of like a barbering like business, where I started probably about a year and a half ago, which is going pretty well. It's pretty successful. I actually do Teresa's hair. If you see all the flourishing locks and whatnot, yeah, you see it.
You see it. I know you see it.
So it's something that I enjoy doing. I do a whole bunch of extracurricular things around that as well.
He's a hustler.
Yeah, it gets kind of overbearing sometimes, but as with the relationships, you just got to find a balance. So on the side of that, I do modeling, I do music, I produce and write songs, and do some light acting as well. So I'm kind of all over the place, doing a lot of traveling right now at this point in my life. So you can say that I like to be called an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur can be like, many things at once, you know what I mean? So that's really what I'm practicing right now. I'm kind of like, doing some mental training on myself to, again, find that balance and, not really limit myself, you know what I'm saying? I don't want anybody to, be able to say to me, well, you should focus on this. Well, no, I shouldn't. I actually should do everything. So that's pretty much my path right now and who I am right now in this space. So.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. A little tired just because it was a long day. As I said, working, a 9 to 5 now, it's kind of like, a new thing for me. So, well, not too new. It's not like I've never done it, but like this past year, I've been really focusing on my business. So it's pretty refreshing to go back to work and stuff like that. And again, like I said, it's just a balance thing, because right after work, I'm like cutting and doing hair and whatnot. So it's tough, but I love it. So I feel good. Yeah.
How about you?
I'm Natasha and I'm a psychiatry resident. I'm feeling pretty good as well. The last couple months I was kind of having some imposter syndrome at work since I started a new job. But I'm kind of just now starting to get in the groove of things and feeling like a little bit more in control of what I'm doing. So feeling good.
Nice. And what's the new job?
Just being a resident.
Okay.
So having my own patients and introducing myself as doctor. It took me a long time to do that. So yeah.
How does it feel? You must feel proud to be like
scary.
Doctor.
Scary, yeah.
Well,
I get
that's
that.
Pretty prestigious. Like,
right.
It's a pretty, like, you know what I mean? Like, whenever you're able to put doctor in front of your name, that's when it starts to get real. So
yeah,
and the expectations.
The expectations. Yeah, you gotta live up to a lot of expectations. But congrats.
Congratulations.
Yeah, definitely.
I was still introducing myself like, hi, I'm Natasha, I'm part of your team. Just for the expectations. I was like, I don't know anything. But yeah, now I feel more comfortable with what I do now and sharing that.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So, toxic relationships. So my first question is really just asking you guys how you define toxic relationships. What does that mean to you when you hear that term?
I think ultimately draining is like the word I would use. Whether it's a romantic relationship, family, friend, I feel like you have to walk around on eggshells with that person. and kind of always trying to meet their standards, and it's just kind of exhausting.
Being that was a very recent experience, I don't want to kind of project like I dealt with a toxic person, because you yourself, you can be a toxic person as well.
Sure.
And I feel in that, you know, my last relationship, I played a big role in the toxicity, you know what I mean? It took me a while to really understand that, but I think it's just, you know, that right there, you know, not being able to recognize where you're doing a lot of wrong, or like, you know what I mean, you're making constant excuses, like lying and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Being untruthful is definitely very toxic. Whether or not you're trying to protect a person from the truth or whatever like that, you know, sometimes, you know, the truth can be ugly, but it's always the best to keep it real, or 100 or 1,000, like some people like to say. Toxicity is also, you know, toxicity is when it's stagnance as well. You get what I'm saying? When you're dealing with log toxicity, you tend to fall into your own like what can I say? Like your own, fall into yourself, definitely. The mind is very powerful. It's easy for, we can self-destruct. Like, you get what I'm saying? We can actually do that. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I've actually been thinking about that for the past few months. And also, like, you know, you kind of get out of touch with your own emotions too throughout that. That's definitely, I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking for a lot of situations, but definitely my situation. Like, it was tough for me to, like, you know and understand what I was feeling, you know what I'm saying? Especially with, you know, certain experiences in that relationship was really new to me. You know, I really felt, I'm like, okay, am I loving right now, or am I hating you? Like, you know what I mean? I couldn't really decipher between the two. But yeah, this toxicity is real. And, you know, it's tough. It's tough to deal with, but I mean, it's all of those things. I can go on all day.
Yeah. I think you brought up a really good point about having a toxic relationship with someone that you still ultimately love. Like, and I think it's almost like kind of like a catch-22 in that, like, someone that, like, you care about and that your heart, like, feels for is also the same person that can be like putting you down and making you not feel your best and making you feel incompetent. And that's just kind of like this crazy, like, Jekyll and Hyde like experience, because like you said, it's like, who am I getting today? Like, what experience am I gonna have today?
Absolutely.
And I think I feel like for me, a lot of the toxic relationships I've been in have been a reflection of where I was at as a person, because I think like the reason why, especially I feel like for family, it's a little bit different because you can't necessarily choose your family, right? You can't necessarily choose how your parents raise you or whatever, but like in terms of friendships or romantic relationships, a lot of times it came from me, as cliche as it sounds, but like me not loving myself and accepting treatment that was subpar because I wasn't aware of how I should be treated. So like now, like you talk about toxic relation, or like I'll have friends or people that confide in me about toxic relationships, and I'm just like, Lord, thank you, Jesus, I am not there. Oh my gosh, because I'm like, you give me one like simple red flag, one little thing that make me feel like I'm less than. Bye. Like I don't need to go through that.
Yeah, you brought up a huge thing, the self-love aspect of it. I mean, nothing's worse than that. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing how to decipher for yourself, make decisions for yourself, or the right decisions. You know what I'm saying? Start to move different, not always in the best way. You get what I'm saying? And subconsciously, you just end up in this space where it's just like you don't know what to do next. You know what I mean? I felt like that a lot. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's either I keep selling myself to this situation, or or just sit in this space. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like there was never in that toxic, you know, space. There was no like, okay, I'm gonna get out of this situation and get better from it. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like while you're experiencing that toxicity, your mind blocks that. You know what I'm saying? So that self-love aspect is definitely very. It's part of one of the things that you are, you know, again, subconsciously you sacrifice that while dealing with toxicity, and it's not a good thing. It's not. Doesn't feel well. It doesn't feel good. Yeah.
And like you had mentioned, it's like a lot of times you feed into the toxicity too, and it like just becomes a cycle. I feel like in my experience, because then it's like you're almost matching the other person where they're at, or you're the toxic person, and then they're matching you where you're at, and then it's just like this like constant underpinning of each other. So when did you guys realize you might have like multiple relationships that haven't been the healthiest, but maybe in your most recent relationship, when did you guys realize that it was toxic?
Come on, baby.
Just sit by me.
Natasha, I'll let you go first on that one.
Okay. I'm thinking of like a family member actually. And I guess, for example, like some of my decisions that they were not approving of, just realizing that like they had this notion of they weren't necessarily wanting what's best for me, they wanted what's best for them for me. So that I was like, okay, I'm realizing that I'm feeding into this by continuously trying to people please or, you know, meet this standard.
So we have, obviously, those that are listening, we have a child on the stage, you know?
It's my daughter, Genevieve.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
but I mean, it's real life. This podcast is real life.
It is real life. So
people are parents.
Let's keep some it's good for the authenticity and the rawness. So.
And she's cute, so she'll probably get us some more views.
She's awesome.
Oh, wait.
She's good. She's okay. You're good.
Oh no, you're good. It's okay. You're okay.
Hey.
So.
She's a clown. I know.
So, did you finish your thought? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just like realizing that I can't keep feeding into trying to meet someone else's expectations. So just drawing the boundary of like, okay, I'm gonna do what I need or want to do with my life, and like hopefully you'll be there.
How did you communicate that with that family member?
Did
you?
I just went ahead with my decisions of like where my career was heading, and I guess they saw it and they felt they had to support it. So it's not really a conversation anymore.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have like relationships currently with people that you've dealt with toxicity with?
It pains me to say this, but my mother in particular, you know, being from a Haitian background and stuff like that, it's kind of something that I had to like, you know, get mature about and kind of like understand like, okay, it's not like she wants to be this way for me, it's just what she's used to, what she knows. I'm experiencing what she grew up, you know, experiencing. So, you know, I can definitely relate to the, like, you know, how you said, like, you know, they don't really act, well, I wouldn't say that about my mom. She definitely wanted what's best for me, but in her own image, in the picture that she painted. It was never like, okay, Marlyn, what do you want to do? What are your interests or something like that? Or like, you know, I can definitely give a very good example. When I was really trying to like, you know, write music and then like record and stuff like that. I was so passionate about it back in my junior high days that it didn't matter what, unfortunately, what she said. I'm gonna go and do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna dedicate that time to it. And it was just something that she just could not get down with. At first, she like resented me, like me doing music. Like it was, I had no support from her.
I had the same experience when I did music.
Yeah, I had no support from it or whatever like that, and I was just I was just, you know, I just felt like, you know, it eventually, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of made me feel like I didn't want to do it anymore because I was dealing with so much drama. That was probably one of me and my mom's like worst times with each other as far as like having a relationship. I'm the oldest of 3 boys and stuff like that, and my mom grew up with brothers, so she was definitely rough, like, you know, around the edges and stuff like that. But yeah, that type of toxicity, it's kind of like you almost can't get away from that person. Like, you get what I'm saying? That's a kind of like a toxicity that, again, like we're drawing a difference between family and actual relationships outside of family. You can't choose family, but you can choose who you be, who you're with.
You bring up a great point of generational trauma. So especially with Vivi being here, I'm curious to know how you want to raise her, and is it like different from your mom's mindset, and like if it is, how so?
There's a lot of parts of how my mom raised us that I kind of use as principles for myself. She's big on respecting yourself. Respect yourself. Respect your name. She really made it important. You know, she made family important for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I am very big on my family and stuff like that. Like, we have to, like, you know, get together every so often and whatnot, stay in touch. I'm that annoying cousin that's going to be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in a week. What's going on?
Good,
you know
we need those.
I'm going to say that straight up. Like, you know what I mean? With no problem. I feel like the only things different that I would do with Vivi is just like, I just felt like, you know, again, I don't really want to badmouth it, but this is my experience, right? So I'm just gonna you know, say how I felt about it. You know, I just felt like, you know, my mom wasn't the best communicator with me growing up. You know what I mean? So it was hard for me to understand certain things. I felt like if she was a better communicator with me, one, we would have gotten along much better. Secondly, I think I would have been much wiser and understood what she was trying to say. You know what I mean? I want Vivi to be completely comfortable with talking to me about anything. I think I am going to practice a lot of patience with her. I'm not saying that my mom wasn't patient with me, but, you know, when I was a certain age, I was like 8 or like 9 or even 10, when my mom would ask me why am I acting out a certain way, and I said I didn't know. I really didn't know. I was a young kid. Like, I really didn't know. I really didn't. Like, you know what I mean? If you ask me like now or when I was like 18, older, yeah, I'll have like a whole book to give you of like, you know what I mean? But it's just that, like, you know, I think she gave up too early trying to understand me. You know what I mean? You know, nowadays I have her full support on almost everything that I do. With Genevieve, she's great. Like earlier, you just heard how I'm working, you know, during the day, and you know, when I get home, I'm cutting hair. Yeah. All of that time is being spent with my mom, with Genevieve.
That's awesome.
So she's great when it comes to that and stuff like that. And like, you know, nowadays when people ask her like, oh, my son's a musician, he's a model, he's this, he's that, it's almost like she's pretty much like my marketing manager. Like, you know what I'm saying?
What created that shift in your mom? Because I feel like there are people that
hard work, persistence, never giving up. If you value a person as much as I value my mom, you'll just keep finding ways to try and communicate your point. Even today, I feel like, you know, certain things not necessarily can't talk to my mom about, but I feel like she doesn't give me an opportunity to. Like, you get what I'm saying? She doesn't give me that floor to talk to her, to just be like, hey, you know what I mean? I'm not against you, right? And here's the toxicity with that. I'm gonna get into it later, but I wanna let you know that, hey, I understand you for the reasons why you react a certain way, but here's the effect that it has on us.
I love the way you phrase that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But here's the effect that it has on us. You know, you might have said something a certain way. You know what I mean? My mom likes to generalize things a lot. Like, you know what I'm saying? When she has a problem with one of us, she's gonna say like you guys this, you guys that, you guys this. But when it's just like, I'm my own person,
Yeah.
my younger brother is his own person,
Yeah.
and my youngest brother is his own person as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have to sit there and actually study or understand your kids and the differences that we have. Stop generalizing, because what would cause certain arguments is like, you know what, I don't even do that. Like I'm not like that. Whatever. That's so and so or whatever. Like you should be complaining about this to so and so. Like, you know what I mean? Which, again, you know, here's where the toxicity kicks in. It's just like, you guys are all the same.
Yeah.
We're
It
not.
creates
Like,
like
you know what I mean?
tension amongst you and your
Tension.
brothers too.
It doesn't cause tension between us. We always come together and be like, you know what?
It's you guys against mommy.
It's literally us against her.
Yeah.
You know, Haitians have this thing where they say, like, you know what I mean, you can't fix what someone already knows. Like, you get what I'm saying? And I don't really believe that. I feel like everyone has the ability to change. You know what I mean? I really do feel that way. I feel like everyone has the ability to change.
Yeah. It's a matter of
Wanting to change. And maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
Maybe my mom feels like she has to have this guard up at so much with us because she's a mother of 3 boys. Like, you know what I'm saying? She's a woman, so she has to, like, you know, be this stern, rough person.
I have a question. So the way you handled it, and it being the relationship with your mother was like, let's continue to work on this. Let's continue to have conversation.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, I do feel like people have to protect their peace. So as a psychiatrist, when do you feel like it's the time for someone to be like, okay, I'm sorry, but that relationship is not bettering me in any way, and I need to let go?
Yeah, I think it's working on boundaries. So when it starts to affect you and what you're doing, I think that's definitely when you have to draw the line and create that boundary of whether it's not talking or whether it's like, okay, well, we can communicate, but just not about this specific topic, to create, you know, kind of like a cohesive relationship still.
Well, trust me, when I say I didn't give up, there was a lot of gaps in between. A lot. Because you do have to take mental breaks.
Yeah.
And I recognize that with my mom a lot. If I'm going to sit here and, like, I'm going to sit here forever and try to change this woman. And I won't be able to live my life like that. I have a lot of gaps in between. I spent a while not talking to her at times. And, you know, sometimes you're going to have to leave the other person to kind of reflect on their actions too. Because they're going to feel your absence. They're going to be like, okay, he's really not around. And it's not about my brothers or anything like that. It's really because I don't want to clash with you. I don't want to have that tension. I don't want to experience that thing. One thing about us as men, we don't like confrontation. Period. Period. I mean, I don't do well with confrontation whatsoever. And most of my confrontation during that time was with my mom, and I couldn't stand that. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, just going back on that, there was a lot of long gaps in between that whole process.
I feel like we also feel guilty in recognizing or seeing how maybe the way that we were parented wasn't ideal, but I think you can relieve some of that guilt by just understanding that your parents did the best that they could for where they were at the time, and that's where coming like figuring out what kind of generational things you want to change. Like my parents, they both immigrated during revolutions in their respective countries. So I can understand that their mindset was different. It was like, I need to start a foundation, I have to go to work. Like they weren't trying to, you know, what makes me the happiest and what will I be most fulfilled with. Like that's a privilege that my generation now has of like, we can choose what makes us happy because we're not worrying about, is our country stable? Like, do we have a house? Do we have food? And all that stuff. So I think just recognizing that helps.
That's very, very true. I think that was something that I had to, like I said, over time I understood. You know, you don't know any different. You know what I'm saying? So you're just gonna do what you know. And you know, I know a lot of how my mom was brought up, and that also helped me understand like the relationship that she had with my grandfather, like you know the things that traumatizing things that happened to her growing up. So you know, a lot of people are built off of their experiences.
Oh yeah, everyone is. Yeah.
You know, if you're one to overcome like what you've experienced, especially in those years, those developing years, like you know what I'm saying, those are things that stay with you forever. So if you're able to
not be a certain way because of them, that's really really good. Like wow, like I wish I was you. Like, you know what I mean? Or I had that ability, but like I feel like my mom really that what she's been through really molded her to who she is. And she's not a rough person all the time or whatever like that. It's just with certain things that you try to explain to her and it just doesn't work.
Yeah. I think one of the things that like we don't realize as kids or we tend to forget is that like our parents are also human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like you guys talked about like trauma, like they went through trauma.
Right.
They went through BS.
Absolutely.
And you continue to carry that, and especially like we were talking about stigma in the episode earlier. So if you combine the trauma that they've been through also with the stigma of like mental health and trying to get support, even whether it's therapy, whether it's yoga or whatever it is. So you have to think about that, and then also generationally, like where like I just be thinking about like women in Haiti period or women in other countries and how strong they have to be to fight off men, to really overcome any obstacle. And like I feel like immigrants in particular, like you have, like you said, like it's operating from survival mode.
Exactly.
It's operating from like the end goal is it's something larger than we can even imagine. Like the end goal is creating a better life for my children, and like that's what you're thinking about. And a lot of times there are stressors that are involved with moving to a new country, learning a new language, getting a job, and all those things. And like just like with us, like we might take that out on other people. We might take that out 100%. On we take that out in some sort of way. And sometimes, yes, our parents are guilty of taking that out on us. And I feel like millennials especially are in this place where we're trying to transform that narrative.
I think we're them. We know ourselves.
We do.
I think we know ourselves. Well, yeah. I mean, I would say trying too. I mean, I'm on this path of I would say it's like self-recovery. I honestly feel like no one can do it for me except myself. Like, you know what I mean? So, with that, and that's what I try to like make an example for my mom. Like your son isn't weak. Like you birthed a fighter. Like you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna get out of this. Like you're gonna look back and be like, okay, you know what? And everyone's process is different. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because Haitians love to be like, oh, why aren't you like this person that got this degree? Don't you see how he's living now and all that stuff and whatnot? Like, yes, I do see how that person's living now, but I also know that perfect person isn't perfect as well. So for you to compare me to this perfect, quote unquote, person, what is it really doing for me? It's not doing me any good. You know what I mean? Honestly, it brings me down. It actually makes me feel like I'm not adequate enough in your eyes. Like, you know what I mean? It almost makes me feel like you're jealous of that person's parents. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why? Why would you do that? Like, I have my own individual qualities and all these things. That,
I think they're not realizing. I think a lot of times people don't realize the impact.
Of what how they are.
Yeah, exactly. I think they, and especially with like our parents, and you guys both alluded to this. They're just reacting based off of how they were treated, and like how they were treated is what they know, and what you know becomes reality. So exactly, and especially in the countries where our parents are from, like kids don't talk back. So I can't imagine that when they were being raised, that they were like, no, mommy, like you need to. I had this conversation with my best friend the other day about just adults apologizing in general, and how like she was like, I've never had my parents apologize to me for anything. And I mean, and like even when I spent time teaching, one of the things that they taught us in grad school was, if you're in the wrong, apologize.
Absolutely.
And like, as I was learning that, I was like, I've never had a teacher apologize. And I've had some teachers say disrespectful, hurtful things. And it's just a matter of like the awareness again, and trying to even like just apologies in general. I feel like people feel like they don't want to come across as wrong or dumb or incompetent, or like they're not like a person that understands processes, but it shows a sign of like just being human, because we all make mistakes. And I think if we were able to acknowledge our mistakes in our relationships and just have a conversation about it, then it could just be like, oh, like, and like a real conversation where you're listening to the other person and really trying to not necessarily understand where they're coming from, because you're never going to understand anybody else because you're not living their experience, but more so listening and having empathy and just seeing like a different perspective. Like I feel like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy like podcasting for What's on Your Mind, is that like you're hearing a different perspective. You're like we're having a fully fleshed like dialogue around something. And I really think like building up these relationships it's just a matter of communication. It's a matter of being honest. It's a matter of listening. I think just as human beings, when you get emotions involved and like ego gets involved, a lot of the solutions are, a lot of the problems become bigger than they should be, and you're not looking at solutions because you're in these relationships, you're so stuck on like the hurt that the person has caused you. And it's like, I feel like we need to shift more to a place of how do we heal?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why that worked with your mom, because I feel like you were so adamant about like, how do we heal? Like, how do we have, how, despite like you calling me this or you saying that or you not believing in me, how do we have a relationship, you know?
Absolutely. And that's something that I worry about for her. You get what I'm saying? I don't ever want to look at it as like, you know, she'll never be able to move on from these things that she went through. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I see it a lot. Like it comes out. Like, you get what I'm saying? How she projects herself. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it is something that, you know, makes me worry a little bit. But again, like, you know, through that persistence, like, you know, like I said, I started to believe, like, you know, everyone can change. And that's what I'm trying to make her understand as well. Like, you get what I mean? I feel like you probably dealt with this with your parents a lot. Like, when they, it's almost like when they, I have this thing where I might touch a nerve, but not like I'm disrespectful, but like I might touch a nerve as in like I'm right. And then the next response, oh, you can get out. You can leave.
It just escalates.
It just escalates. It's like,
really
why?
quickly, 0 to 100.
I'm just trying to have a conversation with you. You know what I'm saying? This is gonna help us.
Because they weren't taught how to communicate.
It's not cool. But you know, again, I do get that. Like, trust me. Like, I mean, I don't know how I would be if I would have gone through those things. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really speak too much on it. But all I know is that I can try, and you know what I mean. Like, I'm 26 years old, whatever. Like, you know, it might happen when I'm like 35 or something like that, and that's fine. Like, you know what I'm saying. But I just don't want, you know, things to. There's like a barrier that you. It's like I can't go beyond it. Like, you get what I'm saying. And I don't know it's gonna take to you know, kind of take it down. But it's really hard to, like, once you get to that barrier, it's almost like you gotta turn around and just, like, you know what I mean, just leave it alone. And that happens a lot, and I hate that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really have to leave you alone. I feel like I can't talk to you. Like almost every time that happens, I feel like I never want to speak to her, because it's just like, it's such a challenge.
And I feel like a part of like dealing with those relationships, and you mentioned this, like the boundaries, but then kind of just knowing that that's what the relationship looks like. And like not comparing it to other mother, daughter, or son relationships. And I think a lot of times too, because we're speaking a lot about like family members and parents, like I feel like we let media and like TV show us what we think like a healthy family is supposed to look like. Like, I remember having a conversation, I think this is common amongst, like, a lot of the African diaspora, is that, like, their parents never say, I love you, you know, growing up. I don't know if that was you guys' experience or not. But, like, I don't necessarily feel like telling someone you love them is showing them that you love them. Like you, like I think with like our families, our parents showed us they loved us by like cooking every day, or like just making sure we did our homework.
That was love.
You know
like,
what
that
I
was
mean?
love for them. Yeah.
Right. So it's like we also need to like get out of our like mind what we think a healthy relationship like looks like, and just think about more so like how we feel in relationships, and like be in tune with like, does this stress me out? Does this make me feel angry? Does this make me feel sad? And like whatever that dynamic is that like makes you feel good, that's the kind of relationship you should be emulating. But so I have a question around like who you see. Like, do you see groups? Do you see couples? Do you see, or is it usually just like a singular person?
Yeah, so right now I'm in the inpatient hospital. So I usually only see people when they're in a crisis. So like after suicide attempt, if they're having like a psychotic break, a psychotic episode, something like that. So I don't really, it's interesting though, because I feel like with everyone, something that always comes up is their childhood dynamics and how that plays a role in how they're dealing with things, how they're dealing with their diagnosis, how they're dealing with symptoms. So I feel like it definitely, the way you're brought up and the traumas you've been through are going to affect every aspect of your life.
Yeah, no, and it's just like Marlyn said, your environment. So
your environment is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot, and that doesn't just go with family. Toxic friends, you know what I mean? I've dealt with that as well, like, you know what I mean? Like, what I've also learned is that, like, you know, time is a lot, but it's also, I feel like I've just learned to not focus on like time being the reason why I'm in a relationship with someone.
Preach. Can you say that one more time?
I'm trying not to. I'm not letting time be the reason why I'm with someone or I'm cool with someone or whatever.
I feel like a lot of people are like, well, we've been together 6 years. We gotta make it work 7 years. No.
Listen. It's like, yeah. When you're for me, it's like when you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also it's just like for friendships, like I had like, you know, two main people that I called them brothers, like, you know what I'm saying? And when I needed them most around the time when Genevieve was being born and stuff like that, I didn't have them. You know what I'm saying? That's when they decided to like, you know, be different and do you know, whatever it was. And, you know, I was cool with them for like 10 years plus, like, you know what I'm saying? I remember doing shows for music and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily their shows. It wasn't at all. It wasn't. It was my shows, like, you know what I mean? And I had this philosophy, like, you know, wherever I went, my brothers was with me, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the case may be. Now I realize it was just an image thing, even with them too. We just liked the image. It wasn't like, you know, I felt like, you know, like looking at it now, I'm like, yo, what did I do in those 10 years? I feel like I didn't accomplish anything with them. You get what I mean? So I'm not about to be like, oh, well, we're like 10-year friends or whatever. We gotta be friends forever. Right. It's almost like, what are you doing for me? What are you doing for my soul? What are you feeding my my mind? Like, you know what I'm saying? Am I progressing with you, or I'm in the same exact place? Yeah. You know, and a lot of the time too, you start understanding yourself after removing those type of people from yourself, from your life. I felt like I was always this person because I was around that for such a long time. I could never tap into that. Like, you get what I mean? So another toxic thing, you know what I mean? So toxicity comes in many different forms, and many different types of relationships.
I'm with you. I'm so protective of my energy now. Like, I feel like I used to have so many friends. Like, there were in high school, there were just so many people that I would consider like myself being close to, and now that I've gotten older, I feel like my circle has gotten smaller and smaller, and I never used to understand why people would say that, because I feel like older people would always say that to me, but it's really just about quality and instead of quantity, because I'd rather spend time with people I feel myself with.
Right.
And I feel comfortable with, and people that uplift me and that support me than wasting energy on people that aren't supporting me or helping me in any way. And I feel like those are the only people that I surround myself with. People my friends tell me like I isolate myself or whatever. I live in Easton. You guys don't come visit me. That's what it is. But it's also really like even I think like the places where I decide to be too is like different. Like I don't do the club things. I don't do like parties because I also feel like the type of energy with the people, and it's not every party, but I feel like the type of energy of the people there, like that's not the kind of energy that I want to be around. Like, and the places where I feel where people match my energy, it's like it's work, it's community, it's helping people, it's sharing a message. So those are the spaces that I'm around because those are the type of people I want to attract into my life. And I think when you are interacting with people that aren't on that same plane too, I feel like that's where toxicity can grow because it's like you guys, even if you are equipped with communication skills, it's almost sometimes it's like you're not speaking the same language.
Yeah.
So I think I feel like as a tactic to prevent from getting into a toxic relationship, and again, going back to family, you can't choose your family, but it's like even where you allow yourself to be before you can like even create a relationship that might be toxic, I think people need to be more mindful of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I cut hair at home. Teresa always comes by when she needs her hair done and stuff. But I actually sage that barber room every week because there's,
get rid of that energy.
You know, like I'm not saying like I deal with bad people or anything like that. You just don't know what type of vibes they're bringing in. I mean, you don't know what they're bringing from wherever they came from. You know what I mean? It's just, again, really, I mean, think about it. I'm barbering, I do music, I'm modeling, I'm act. If you have any of my time in between those things, you have to be benefit. You have to be of substance. You have to have substance, depth. Like, you know
I have a question though, because in those industries, because like I was doing music too, how do you maintain relationships with people in those industries that might want to like exploit you or do you not even have relationships with those people?
Not at all. So it's not that I don't have relationships with those people. So the people that I have relationships, so think about it. So about 4 years ago, I was really, really serious in music, going to shows, doing everything like that. And now that I'm coming back into that, you know what I mean? I don't even really have to reach out to certain people. They're already like, hey, I see you, like, you know, coming back to yourself, like, you know, is it time? Like, are you coming back? Like, you know what I mean? So those are the people that I'm always gonna hold something with. You hear what I'm saying? I'm very good. I'm very good at maintaining relationships with people, even if, like, you know, we might not be doing the same thing at the current time. It's just I've been, you know, even before that, I was very good at picking up on energy. And not only just energy, genuine energy. There's a difference. Like, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, like, I'll put someone for example, like, I had a manager at the time. His name's Reggie. He goes by Reggie. He does a lot of events in Boston and things like that.
Oh, I think I know him. He does the poetry night at
He does the poetry night at Hard Rock and
before.
the reggae nights up in well, it's not Guild now, it's Legacy or something like that, Legacy nightclub, something like that. Whatever, but he does.
He's like, I'm from Houston. I don't know.
Oh, you are from Houston. Oh, okay, so you probably don't know nothing.
Nope.
Okay.
Sounds cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's yeah, you know, Boston people would probably know, but like, you know, he's someone that I always kept in contact with because his genuine energy that he gave me, he didn't have to give me that. Again, you know what I'm saying? You always want to protect yourself and who you deal with. It was just always with open arms with him.
You know what I mean? That's like not someone that I ever want to let go, or you know what I mean, or like not be cool with, because at the end of the day, I wasn't dealing with any toxic ways from him. If anything, it was all support. Like, I'm here for you, whatever. Take your time, whatever you're going through, get through it, then come back and talk to me. That's totally fine. You know what I'm saying?
That's dope in that industry, especially because I feel like a lot of people
You don't
are
find
like
that a lot.
jealous
Absolutely.
of you.
You don't find that a lot.
Or they see, especially like one of the things that I saw when I was doing music was like people thought like I was doing so much in such a short period of time. Like people were just like, how did you do that? Like, and it wasn't like, I feel like in a healthy relationship, someone would be like, okay, like come to me and just be like, do you have any pointers? Do you have any tips? But like a lot of people, like artists around the area, were like talking to other people and just like, oh, she like they would say, I don't even want to say like what it was because I feel like people listening might know, but like people were basically like talking behind my back about my success, and it's just like, and there were people that like I considered friends at the time, so I that's why I was curious as to how do you navigate like a world that is so like money hungry and jealous
and world. It's a man eating world. The thing is like you want to keep things as in house as possible. I try not to like deal with someone that I don't already know. You know what I mean? And that's the importance of networking and maintaining relationships with people that you network, because that really helped me. You know what I mean? So I would say like, I know that it's like not gonna work with someone when, it starts to be like, I don't mind if somebody asks me for money or whatever like that, but like, artists, struggling artists and things like that, you know what I mean? You just want to capitalize on me. Like, you don't really want to help. You want to capitalize. You see a market and you just want to capitalize. You get what I'm saying? You're not like, here to build with me and see me get to a certain point, because I mean I was young, I didn't really have like stable work or anything like that, so anybody that was really asking me for money, I kind of was like, well, I don't got it. You know what I mean? I if I did, I probably would have done a lot of stuff, but then again, you wouldn't be looking at me for me or my talent. You're just looking at my pockets and what type of monetary funding I can bring to you. You know what I mean? So I would just say like, just deal with people that you know. Try not to go outside, or if someone knows someone, try and explore that.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of things out there like people try to like get you to sign up on, or like, hey, I don't know if you've ever experienced that, like when you're posting stuff online and then there'll be
people like DMing you
like, hey, graphics, I can make you a logo or whatever like that and whatnot. I'm like, I know you're looking for business, but it's not like you're doing this on everyone's page. It's the same exact. It's the same exact like wording and everything on every
copy and paste.
Literally. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like when those copy paste comments start with like, I love what you're doing.
I love what you're doing and everything like that. I love that. It's the most.
Or have nothing to do with like the content that you actually posted.
Nothing.
But so we've talked about toxic relationships in terms of family. We talked about it in terms of friends, work. How about like dating? Because I feel like that's probably what the listeners thought we were gonna focus on. But Natasha, right, gotcha. What have you experienced in terms of toxic relationships, if you're willing to share?
I guess I want to like focus in on like the leaving, because I feel like that's the hardest part in romantic relationships. I feel like a lot of time with friends and sometimes family, it's easier to draw boundaries. You might not live with them or be around them as much. I feel like we get too stuck up on the good times and like who this person was and like what they did for me. And toxic people are not always toxic. Abusers don't always abuse. So it's not like it's gonna stop. Things go in cycles, and there's always like this honeymoon love bombing stage, and that kind of becomes like the fantasy of the rest of the relationship, trying to get back to that phase instead of realizing there's a lot of negative energy here and it's not going to go back to what I thought it was. So that was like a really important thing for me, and just you gotta maintain your expectations, and it's like a seesaw, and you gotta just like realize what's weighing down, and if it's the negative things, then that's the end of it.
I love that. Like I feel like you really preached, and I think I agree. I think people really focus on like the good times and really look at that as defining the relationship, but like you have to be real with yourself. It goes back like full circle to what we talked about in the beginning. You have to have some type of self-love and respect for yourself and honesty with yourself to just be like, no, like you don't deserve this much negative and then one little glimpse of positive. Right. Exactly. That's not
like
that's
breadcrumbs.
Exactly. That's
it's kind
not
of
a way
like
to live.
devaluing yourself at the same time.
Right.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. So I think that we should go into a mindful moment.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we go into the mindful moment, are there any last words that you guys want to share or any pieces of advice around, and we've named some things like creating boundaries, but anything outside of that for people that are experiencing an unhealthy relationship, and how do they get out of it, or what are some encouraging words you want to say to those people?
Okay, so since Genevieve is here, we'll make kind of like I'll make kind of like a focus on like, you know, like if you're in a relationship with let's say like the other parent of your child was a toxic person. Again, I'm not targeting, you know, her mother as like a toxic person. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I was toxic just as much. You know what I'm saying? But for where you know, I was lucky in my situation. All the toxicness and things that I was dealing with, and you know, whatever I was projecting, whatever like that, it happened when Genevieve was really, really young. So she can never really, not never, but she was really young. She can't remember it. You know what I mean? Don't let it get to like, you know, it's been 7 years of straight toxicness, and you have a child there and everything like that. It's really, really, really crucial to know when to end that, because it's like you can really damage. You know what I mean? And you can really damage that
whole
child.
other person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of what fueled the way I moved towards the end of my relationship with her mother, because it was just like, you know what? I feel like I'm not acting the way that I want Genevieve to know me. You get what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure it was the same for her as well. You know what I mean? I'm not just saying that just for myself. So that's when it's just like, okay, I'm not getting any positive space out of this, and I have a child in this situation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes that separation is what's best. I think that's really important for some people to hear. Because I feel like, well, I have a kid with him or her, so we're just gonna work it out. But it's like, well, yeah, you're literally screaming every night and fighting and all these stuff. And what about little man or little mamas or something like that? You know what I'm saying? You gotta be able to know when it's something that you at this point it's like it's in the child's best interest for you guys to separate.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Here you go, babe.
What about you? Any final thoughts or advice?
Yeah, kind of in that same vein, if you also like find yourself in that pattern time and time again, I think that's like a good point to consider therapy, so you can understand like
100%.
where that's coming from, why you're attracted to this kind of dynamic. And a lot of times it comes from like our family of origin or how we were brought up, and we keep trying to subconsciously recreate that and try to rewrite the ending of it. So we keep seeking that out of like, oh, maybe this time like I'll prove my worth and it'll be like I'll finally get that unconditional love that I deserved. So I definitely think if you keep finding yourself in that, to consider therapy. Casual therapy plug.
Absolutely.
I read, well, I didn't read the article, I just read the title. But it was basically about how Black women in particular tend to end up in toxic relationships because, I think it was actually like smart Black women in particular, because we are, and I'm including myself in this because I've been in many and I consider myself a smart Black woman, we are so used to working on something and getting like the end result we want. And it's like, we like when it comes to academics or just goals that we set in our lives, and I feel like you can visibly see this with a lot of Black women. We look at like dating the same, and we look at like men as like, okay, like I can make him want me if I do this. Like I can be enough, right? And I can make him change because I've been able to get X, Y, and Z in life, and this is just something else that I just need to work towards. And I think my advice would be to not, I feel like we tend to intellectualize a lot of things, and it's really about moving more, again, like with our feelings, and like how people make us feel, how people make us hurt, how people make us think about ourselves, and how important that is. So I would just, I would say, Black women, y'all deserve everything and more. And I think we also tend to think that there aren't people out there that can match us. Like I see women settling left and right. And I think that's also because we live in a world where we feel like if you do not get married by a certain age or have a child by a certain age, then all of your life accomplishments mean nothing. And I think we need to start changing that narrative too. Like, you can look at Tracy Ellis Ross, look at Amanda Seales, like all these women that are killing it, that don't have any children and are happy that they don't have any children or they're not married. So I think we need to also look at that. And like the thing that I also hear from older people is that like having a man by your side is cool, but it's not everything. Like, we yearn for these relationships, and it's like we don't realize that even the healthiest relationships come with stress. Even like a healthy relationship comes with moments of feeling like you want to leave and you don't want to be in it. It's not going to be hunky-dory all the time. And again, we're chasing what the media portrays as like the ideal relationship. So I think we just need to be more grounded. I think we need to know what we deserve. And I think when you focus on, and we're talking about romantic relationships specifically, when you focus on like your grind and what you have to do and you put yourself in the spaces that you need to be in, then whether you believe in God or whoever your spiritual leader is, I think the universe is always going to bring, if that's what you want, the universe is going to bring it to you. So, like, let's not get caught up to and thinking that we need a man.
That's great.
And that's my speech.
I'm a big fan of Black women, by the way.
Black women
Particularly
are
smart Black women.
so lit. We're so amazing. I feel like we're going to, I tell people all the time, we're going to change the world. Like, within the next 20 years, like, we're not going to change the world. We're going to save the world. I really feel 100%. Like it's Black 100%. Women that are at the forefront of every movement. 100%.
Hey, so
but anyway.
I think it's your turn. It's your turn.
So let's go into our mindful moment. So our mindful moment is really going to be a reflection of the year, because I feel like at this time of year, that's what people are really thinking about. It's like, I think a lot of people are thinking about, what am I going to do next year? So I want us to just think about, and we'll do a quick moment of silence. Think about what you've accomplished throughout the year. So maybe we can Vivi, you want to sit on my lap? No, okay. Feet flat on the floor. Hands on your laps.
Okay.
Inhale. Exhale. And I want you to think about not what you didn't accomplish this year, but what you did accomplish this year. What do you feel proud of? What do you feel like you worked hard for? What do you feel like you wrote down, or you meditated on, or you prayed for, and you got this year? So I want you guys to open your eyes. come back. And I'll go first just because I've been thinking about this. So I created a vision board at the beginning of the year, and I'm normally not a vision board person because I feel like now it's like become like so cliche to like put together a vision board. But I did one at work, and I looked at it recently, and I was just like, wow, like I actually did a lot of this stuff. So I would say the biggest accomplishment that I did this year was buy a house. I became a homeowner.
Facts.
Yeah. So.
Big.
Yeah.
Big. Actually, yes.
Yeah.
Big high five. Yes.
Thank you. So that was like, I'm always the type of person that's like, oh, next goal. Like we were saying in like the last episode, like, or like, oh, what I didn't, because like on my list, I put like, I wanted to do like, I wanted to be on the Breakfast Club and all this, like, not crazy stuff, because I feel like eventually, like, I'll get there. Yeah. But, like, I'm trying not to dwell on, like, oh, I didn't get on the Breakfast Club, you know? But, like, what I did do, I'm proud of.
Absolutely. So
what did you do, Natasha, this year that you're proud of?
This has been a pretty wild year for me, in a good way. So, like, at the end of medical school, you apply to residency, and it's, like, the biggest anxiety show of your life, basically.
It's like the NFL draft, I feel
literally,
like.
Yeah. So, yeah, I remember, like, just when I was applying and I got the interview at where I'm at right now in Boston, and, like, I was just imagining, because it's, like, this big thing, you open an envelope, like, it's a surprise where you get accepted to, yeah. So, yeah, I was just, like, imagining opening that envelope and, like, it's Boston, and, like, it happened. And when I opened that envelope, it was just, like, I blacked out.
Congratulations!
I can't even imagine what you felt. That's really...
That
really
was awesome.
That's breaking all barriers. A woman of color, you're a doctor
that was awesome.
in Boston.
Yeah.
That's, like... real, because this
Very
is
real.
the healthcare capital of the world, so they say.
And then, yeah, I graduated, and then I got married this year.
Oh, wow!
Yes, to like the best person I've ever known.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Does he have a brother?
That's amazing.
He's younger though. Sorry.
He's
like
younger.
19.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh. That's almost 10 years. I'm about to be 29. That's crazy. Sheesh.
I look for a cousin.
Thank you. What about you, Marlyn?
Things that I did this year. I feel like I established myself this year. I made a pretty big, like, you know, I made noise. I made noise. I made a whole lot of noise. Barbering was something that I looked at 2019 as this is my build year. This is my year to solidify like my place in the game, or whatever you want to call it, especially around our area and stuff like that. And I ended up being like on social media like really heavy with you know, posting my work. And like I was like always popping up on like the Explore page. Like clients would actually tell me like, hey, you're like #1 or #2 on the Explore page for like the Bronx South Shore area and whatnot, which was big because the way that I didn't start at a barbershop. I started at home, like networking with people, showing people my work, like, hey, you know what I'm saying, come by and stuff like that. People were grasping to that whole thing, you know what I mean? So barbering definitely, especially this summer, you know, I started like, you know, kind of like, you know, I started just, you know, limiting time and stuff like that, because now I felt like, you know what, I got to a certain place, now you guys are gonna work on my time. You know what I'm saying? Which was a big thing for me, because I used to like accept all types of appointments at all types of times at night and everything like that.
You can be choosy.
Now I can be choosy. I can be very choosy. And you know what? I put in a lot of work with that. So I'm very proud of that. Another thing I accomplished with modeling, I'm like, this is the most serious I've ever been with it. So I'm feeling really good about that. I've been doing some like, you know, little acting roles and videos and stuff like that, and also, you know, taking some really good pictures and whatnot. And one of the main things that I did this year is
I feel like not only am I myself again, I feel like I'm like me 2.0. Like, you get what I'm saying?
You have a different energy.
I have a very different energy now. That was something that I was yearning for. I was like starving for it, and I felt like all I had to do was just focus on myself, and it was, I don't know why that was the hardest thing to do for a very long time, but I'm very proud of that, because if anything, my mind's been on 2020 since January. So
nice.
2020, I have very, 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 very big plans. So and you know, those big plans were all contingent of by me being, you know, doing what I'm doing right now. You know what I'm saying? Being able to do these things. So now I can say, like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm back.
Yes.
Work with me. I'm here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was really good for me, because I spent a long time just being in a dark place.
Yeah.
Not feeling anything, like, you know, I felt like I was losing my passions for certain things, which hurt, because it was just like, wow, I used to love this, but now I can't even stand it because I'm not happy. I'm just not happy. I'm just not happy. I might, like, you know, hey, but deep down I'm like, you know what I mean? And that was, it was not cool.
Yeah.
And my happiness right now is like my biggest accomplishment. Definitely.
Nice.
Biggest
that.
accomplishment.
I'm
Baby
happy
girl,
you're
man,
happy.
she's amazing. She's
Yeah.
She's just a curious bundle as we see her like opening curtains, trying to see
Like,
what's
what's
behind
back
it.
here?
Absolutely. I mean, she was definitely, you know, something not something, but someone I really wanted to work on this year, and I felt like I really, like, you know, kind of like made an impact with her and stuff like that. Also, one more thing that I accomplished this year was with her mother. Actually, I feel like we're at like the best place that we've been in a long time, and that took work. That took work. She's stuck.
Oh no.
That took work. That took a whole lot of work.
Funny, Vivi.
And but you know where we are right now. I'm extremely proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for her. Like, you know what I mean? For whatever she does, whatever she decides to do with her life, I want her to flourish. You know what I'm saying? I care about her development. So, you know, getting her to finally really understand that was something that I had to work hard on. But, like, you know, nowadays, like, you know, I can talk to her, no problem. She can call me up, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what's going on? How's everything going? And whatnot. So my base is really what I conquered this year. You know what I mean? So now I feel like, let's go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Oh man,
like,
let's go.
This was your foundation.
Go time.
Yeah.
Go time. Whatever it is.
Well, thank you guys for
you.
joining me. Thank you, Vivi, for being here.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a wrap on this episode of Mindful. See you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about it. Don't let it sit on your mind.